All right. What is your name?
Brandy Davis.
And Brandy, are you a volunteer firefighter with the Cortland Fire Department?
Yes, sir.
And how long have you done that?
Certified in 94. State certified.
Okay, can you speak up? Just pull that microphone. Other one. Yeah.
I've been a state certified fireman in Mississippi since 1994.
Okay. And how long have you been with Cortland?
Approximately a month before this incident.
Okay. And where were you a volunteer firefighter before Cortland?
Bynum Volunteer Fire Department.
Okay.
Also
These folks are
County.
from Pike County. So where is Bynum in relation to Cortland?
It would be the southeast part of Panola County District.
Okay. So it's not real far from Cortland?
No, sir.
Okay. Where were you, or did you receive a call out or tone out on the evening of December the 6th of 2014?
I was in Batesville at El Mariaca's Mexican restaurant.
All right, you speak up. They're going to have to hear you.
I was in the town of Batesville at El Mariaca's Mexican restaurant.
Okay. And what was the nature of the call out that you received?
The initial tone was a car fire at the tree farm.
And did you, in fact, respond?
I did.
Okay. And which route did you take from the restaurant here in town to get to Cortland?
Highway 6 to 51, and then straight down the main street of Cortland.
Approximately how long did it take you to get there? Do you remember?
I really don't.
Okay. And then, were you familiar with the area that you were being sent to?
Somewhat.
Okay. Did you have any trouble finding it?
No, sir.
All right, tell the jury, how did you get there? Were you in your personal vehicle?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And tell the jury what you heard on the radio while you were responding to the scene.
I heard Jody Mars come over, and what went from a car fire in a tree farm to a vehicle on fire with a female severely burned and in the road as well.
How was Jody, or how were you perceiving what Jody was saying on the radio? Could you hear the tone of his voice?
Yes, sir, very well.
And what was going through your mind as you were hearing the tone of his voice?
I knew something. He was in some kind of trouble. Or, you know, it wasn't just an ordinary call.
And what did you find upon your arrival at the scene?
I found Jessica standing initially, and I told them as EMR, we needed to get a blanket around her. They told me somebody's going for a blanket. I went for my turnout jacket. We put the blanket around her, and I put my turnout jacket over. As we laid her down near the fire truck.
You're an EMR, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And tell the jury what an EMR is.
It's basically a first responder. We're the first, that in this case, we're the first aid in the chain of EMS to give life support to a victim.
Describe for the jury the assessment that you were making of Jessica and what you observed about her when you first began to look at her.
Walking on the scene, she was standing. I could see, the back, her back, high first degree burn, some second. Laying her down whenever I started to talk to her. Because EMR, there's not a whole lot that could have been done from my standpoint until further EMS got there. talking was the best way to judge airways, breathing, and things like that, as well as comforter.
And did you begin to talk to her?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay, and what did you say to her?
I asked her name, and she replied, Jessica. I said, Jessica who? And she said, Chambers. And just, basically in conversation, I asked her, I said, I'd already been advised that this was pretty much a crime scene from Jody Mars. And I asked her, I said, baby girl, who done this to you?
Did she respond?
Yes, sir.
And what did she say?
She said, Eric.
And did you did you continue to talk to her?
Sir?
Were you able to keep her talking?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what was her, I guess for lack of a better word, what was her health status as you were sitting there with her? I believe you testified a moment ago there wasn't much you could do for her.
Right.
Is that right? Why is that?
I mean, it's just burns of that nature in the field. It's beyond my capabilities to do anything other than package the patient.
I'm going to show you what's been previously marked as Exhibit 5. Is this the way Jessica looked? Bottom photo here,
Yes, sir.
as you were talking to her.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did she have black soot around her nose?
Yes, I mean, it's just like in that picture.
She had black soot around her mouth. Was she in distress?
Yes, sir.
And how would you describe the distress that she was in?
She was a fighter. I mean, she was trying to answer questions. I mean, she was trying to tell us, who she was. I mean, pretty outstanding if you ask me.
What about the vehicle itself? Did you observe the vehicle?
After the fact,
Okay.
I went up there to make sure it wasn't, that was only her in there.
All right, you got to speak up now.
After we had packaged her and got her to the landing zone,
Okay.
I briefly looked, to make sure there was no other patients in the vehicle, or, if we was changing over to recovery.
Sir, your voice is trailing off real badly,
Yes.
and the jury can't hear you.
Okay.
So speak. Just speak up. I think the microphone's picking you up, but you need to speak a little louder. Okay.
All right.
Thank you. Let me know if you can't hear. All right. Again, thank you. Ask your last question again, please.
Yes, sir. When you arrived at the scene, was the fire still going?
To the best of my knowledge.
Do what now?
To the best of my knowledge.
Okay. And when you went back up there, was the fire out after Jessica had been packaged and taken to the landing zone?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You also, I believe, mentioned that you observed somebody there at the scene at some point in time when you were there. Is that correct?
It was brought to my attention, yes, sir.
Okay. And also, I believe you went down and confronted this person. Is that correct?
No, sir, we did not confront the person.
Okay. Did anybody in your presence tell this person to move on out of there?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
I mean, not in my physical sight, no, sir.
Okay. Did you obtain a tag number?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And did you turn that over to
Daniel Cole, yes, sir.
when the tone out came, it would have been probably around 8:06, 8:07.
Leading.
Ma'am?
I apologize. I was just going to object to leading the witness as the time.
All right, your objection's noted. I'll overrule the objection. You may continue.
Where exactly were you when the call came out?
At El Mariachi's Mexican restaurant
And where is that?
in town of Batesville.
All right, you're familiar with the Cracker Barrel area, is that
Yes,
correct?
Yes.
Is that in the area?
In the strip mall, a little bit past Cracker Barrel, yes, sir.
Okay. So there's a retail outlet mall, is that what you're talking about?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that restaurant is in there, so you had to respond from there to Cortland.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Tend to the witness, Your Honor.
Cross?
Good morning, Mr. Davis.
Good morning.
If you could, I was sitting on the other side of the room. Could you speak up just a little bit more?
Yes, ma'am.
For my sake, for sure.
Ma'am.
And
Sorry.
then everyone I know can hear you. Thank you for that. I have a few questions for you this morning. You agreed that basically you were the first EMR firefighter on scene.
Yes, to the best of my knowledge, yes.
Yes. And when you got there, first person you spoke with would have been Jody Mars.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And he was there and he advised you of what the scene situation was.
Right.
And there was also, I believe you testified that it seemed like it was a crime scene at that point.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You approached Miss Jessica and started talking to her shortly after that.
Yes, ma'am.
And I know you mentioned about a turnout coat. Is that a pretty big firefighter coat?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You took that coat and placed that to give additional warmth to Jessica.
Right.
Okay. As well as I believe there were blankets there also.
Yes, ma'am. The blanket was around her first, and my turnout jacket was laid over it.
Yes. And that was to provide her with additional body heat,
Yes, ma'am.
comfort, that type thing.
Yes, ma'am.
And I believe from there you did what would be considered, is this EMR terminology, patient assessment?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, if you will, you indeed wrote out a report.
Yes, ma'am.
And may I approach? May I
You may.
approach the witness, Your Honor? Is that it? Is that what you wrote out?
Yes, ma'am.
It is, okay. And it would have been written just a little bit after that date, December 8th.
December 8th, that's correct.
Yes. Your Honor, at this time, I would like to have his statement marked as an exhibit and entered into evidence at this time.
Any objection?
No.
There being no objection, it'll be marked and admitted.
Your testimony earlier is that Jessica appeared to be a fighter. Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. And I believe you said she was also trying to tell you who she was. You agree
Yes,
with
ma'am.
that? Okay. And would you also agree that she was trying to tell you who did this?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. If you will, go about 7 lines down. Let's start at this time. If you could start reading there for me.
At this time, as my patient assessment, I asked baby girl, can you tell me your name?
Okay, do this for me. Read a little bit slower, a
Ma'am.
little bit louder.
I, at the time, hold on just a second. At this time, as my patient assessment, I asked baby girl, can you tell me your name? She replied, Jessica Chambers.
Okay, and I'm going to stop you there. Did you put that language, baby girl, can you tell me your name? She replied, Jessica Chambers. That's all in quotes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And that means to you that that's what she said to you, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Keep reading for me.
At this time, I knew her airway was stable and her level of consciousness.
Okay. And so basically you were saying that she could talk, you understood her, airway stable, level of consciousness clear.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Keep reading for me.
Heard radio traffic at the time. MedStat was on scene.
Okay. And so you're saying heard radio traffic at that time.
Yes, ma'am.
Read that next part again.
MedStat on scene.
Yes. Keep going.
At that time, comforting her and maintain her conscience, and as well as ask, who did this to you?
Okay.
She
So
replied-
this would have been, I'm sorry, keep reading. I apologize.
I asked, who did this to you? She replied, Eric.
Keep going.
I then said, baby girl, what's Eric's last name? She replied, Eric. My thoughts, it was like she thought I knew him or knew who Eric was.
Now, thus far in what you're reading and what you prepared in your report back then, you actually spelled out the name Eric, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And is Eric also in quotes in what you just read?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. How is Eric spelled?
As far as I know, E-R-I-C.
Yes, that's what you have in your report, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Continue reading for me.
I asked again, baby girl, who did this? She replied, Eric, again.
So that's what you meant by the fighter part. She was continually trying to talk to you, correct?
She was doing her best.
Yes. Okay. And what she did was to tell you the name one more time, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let me move you away from your report for just a little bit. At some point after Jessica had been placed into the ambulance, you recall actually going over to the vehicle?
Yes, ma'am.
You do?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And what happened is that you went over there to determine if there was anybody else in the car.
That's correct.
You noticed that there was something else in the car that caught your attention.
Yes, ma'am. Looked to be a can of Freon or something of that nature.
A can of Freon?
Looked to be.
Okay. Okay. If you will, let me point you back to your report just for a moment.
Okay.
Let's go to the second page of it. See where it says, at that time?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Start reading there for me.
At that time, Panola County Sheriff's Office investigator Meing-Chen Hsiao. I reported no one else in vehicle, and nothing like a purse or anything visible. And the only thing odd was a can of Freon in the passenger side rear floorboard.
One more sentence.
I told him that everything that's stated above on what she personally told me as a patient.
Okay. Thank you for that, Mr. Davis. Now, at some point, there was some additional information that you had gotten about a tag number.
Yes, ma'am.
And that would have been from a person that both yourself and you communicated quite a bit with, I believe it was Will Turner.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Both of you are from Cortland Fire Department.
Yes, ma'am.
And this particular tag number or the person that was out there was suspicious enough for you to make note of that.
That's correct.
And so what happened was that a tag was gotten. You agree with that?
Yes, ma'am.
And then that tag information, I believe, was conveyed to Daniel Cole.
That's correct.
So not just some onlooker. The person was legitimately suspicious to you, to the two of you.
She wasn't part of fire EMS that we knew of.
Yes, sir. Of course, indulgence testimony. I tend to witness, Your Honor.
All right. Redirect.
Brandy, who was on the scene with you as another EMR? Now, I'm taking to the bottom of your report.
Sandra Haley, Station 14.
She's from Pope, is that correct?
That's correct.
And she was standing there with you as you were talking to Jessica.
Yes, sir.
Who was leaning over Jessica? You, if you want to refer to your report, you can. Who was closer to Jessica, you or Sandra?
I mean, I guess it would be both of us because, I mean, we was...
Go to the first page of your report and go to the very bottom.
I was leaned down, and then Miss Sandra come in to my immediate. I was leaned down at Jessica's head, and Miss Sandra was to my immediate right.
Nothing further, Your Honor. He may be found excused.
All right, sir. Sir, you may be found excused. You may remain in the courtroom. Your choice. All right.